All right, welcome to Before You Say I Do. My name is Chris Carter, and you're watching us on Citi TV. And if you are listening to us, it's Citi 97.3 FM. All right, so if you're wondering what this show is about, well, this show it's that show that helps you answer all the questions that you have before you walk down the aisle. Today we have a very interesting topic that we're going to be delving into. Couples come together and decide to say, okay, we are going to get married someday. For that, they are going to be moving in together and living in the same space. Now, this is where the issues of homes come in. Should we rent? Should we buy? Today, we're going to be looking at the ABCs of rent in Ghana. Let's take a quick break and we will be back to have that discussion with our expert. All right, welcome back. It's still Before You Say I Do right here. And like I said, we're going to be having a very interesting discussion. Having homes, creating homes together, and whether you would want to rent or whether you would want to buy. But today, it's all about the ABCs of rent in Ghana. And joining us in the studio is Mr. Justice Ofair, the MD of Sikadine Homes, and he's going to be taking us through this discussion. Yeah. Hi, Mr. Ofair.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
All right, so two people want to get married, and probably they're still living in your parents' house, and the issue of, or maybe I wouldn't call it the issue, the step of rent comes in. You understand? We have to live together. We probably don't have a house yet, or we don't have money to buy a house yet, but we have to live together. What are some of the things that people are supposed to consider when it comes to rent in Ghana?
Okay, thanks for the question. I think location is very key in terms of proximity to their workplace. And the second have to do with their purchasing power when it comes to how much they both of them earn to be able to match to pay the rent. Once there's no kid yet, the journey is very smooth, and looking for just an affordable space to keep yourself for a short period is not going to be so much burden since they are working class couples. It's not going to be a problem. So location is key, because at the end of the day, both of you are working, and the proximity to both places have to be reasonable or feasible for both.
Right. So what if in the case that both of them are not working? How does that work?
Yes, so if they are not working, either they are running their own business, and the business has a location. If they are running it from home, it still have to be a location issue, because location is very key. Where do you want to run your business from? Is it more accessible to clients, or is it not? It depends, but the assumption is that at least one of them is working, and probably one of them is also running his own business. The proximity have to be discussed, and I believe with the two minds, they will be able to settle on it.
Is location the only factor they should consider before renting? What about the type of house or the type of space they want?
Okay. All right, so let's go back to what kind of category of couples they are. Are they middle income? Are they low income or high-end income? And that's the couples. If you can afford to rent a luxurious house, but it's not advisable because it is not yours. After 12 months, it get back to the owner. So the best thing is to get a decent home that is okay for both of you. But if you are within the high-end class and you think you need a furnished apartment and both of you can actually afford, there's no problem. But the two most important thing is your purchasing power and the location.
Right. So what's the typical process of rent like? We all have different ways that we, rent, but I'm sure there are people watching us that are probably are not Ghanaians and are wondering, what is the typical process of rent like here in Ghana?
I mean, just to save the stress You just have to deal with people, companies that are also into scouting places for people. So our end, we are a property management firm, and we are able to get clients what they want. So basically, look for a property management firm or look for an agent who can get you your required or preferred apartment within the location that you need. It comes with a little cost if you are dealing with an agent, but it comes with no cost if you are dealing with a property manager. So with the agent, let's assume you want to deal with an agent, you are required to pay maybe 5% to 10% of whatever the rent advance is. It can still be discussed. But when it's done, once you get the place, you have to go and inspect and affirm whether you like the place. Then you meet the landlord. Then you have to move into a contract with the landlord. This is where it is very crucial. Once you have the money, it's better to go in for a longer lease than a short lease.
Why?
The reason is that within a longer lease, there is no option of increasing rents. Because currently the trend is such that after every year, most landlords want to increase their rents. Yes, so if you're able to...
Sorry to cut you. It hasn't been like that for a long time, but I can see that trend is happening right now, especially when the things started going bad in the economy. Yeah, why? Because
the components of building a house have to do with inflation, because most of the materials are imported. And currently new apartments are being built by developers who are landlords. So they are business people, they invest their money, some take loan from the bank to build. So they always want to match up their value or money that have been invested, right? So it's going to happen like that, right? Once we don't produce all these materials from Ghana, we need to import them, right? The issue is that the landlord or the developer need to raise money from what he has invested to build the next apartment. So he also have to repay loan if he took loan from the bank. So it's always advisable that in looking at the lease, which is the contract between the landlord, you have to push for money, get some money, and go in for 3 years or 2 years. So you can negotiate and get, for instance, if the rent is 700 per month or 1,000 per month, if you are taking it for 3 years, you can get it maybe 900 or 800.
Yeah.
Yes, which wouldn't be the same after a year, because there's a high probability the landlord will increase it.
Right. So you just mentioned 700 and 1,000. What can 700 or 1,000 give you right now in Ghana?
For a decent chamber and hall.
Cities.
Yes, cities, not dollars. For a decent chamber and hall, you struggle to get a place with 700 Ghana. It's not going to happen unless maybe you are outskirts Accra. Right? But if you are within Accra, it's very difficult. It should cost you 1,000 for a chamber and hall, or minimum of 1,000, right? And then if you really want a decent place and a good location,
Wow. Now, let's talk about the rights and responsibilities of a tenant, right? I feel like people that want to get married and maybe live together someday needs to know about all this. So what are the rights and responsibilities of a tenant, especially after we're married and we've rented a place? What do we have to know? And so what are we supposed to do?
Perfectly. So we can take it from the type of lease you are signing. Basically, there are 3 types of lease. We have, in terms of the cost and the taxes you pay, aside the rents, there are 3 categories you need to deal with: a single net lease, a double net, and a triple net. They are a category of cost that every tenant needs to bear, apart from rents. These 3 main categories, of course, is the insurance, property taxes, and maintenance fee. So that defines the type of lease you sign with the landlord. But most people don't know that. So for instance, you have to go in for a lease that you will not take care of property tax, you will not take care of the insurance on the property, you will not take care of maintenance cost, right? So it is always going to be a discussion between the landlord. The landlord will love to push a triple net lease for you. Triple net means you're going to take care of the maintenance, the property tax, and the insurance. So mostly the rent is a bit lower because you're going to take care of the maintenance costs and rep. So you need to play around this, right, and always go in for a single net where you don't actually carry a lot of extra cost on yourself.
Wow, wow, wow. Now, how do you explain the typical lease terms? And because you were like, you need to look at the lease terms to really understand. So how do you explain that when it comes to renting?
Okay,
and will the landlords be able to also open up about, you know, the three things you mentioned?
Yeah, most landlords technically don't know about what type of lease they are.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you are dealing with a property management firm that is managing the apartment for a landlord, that is a different thing.
Yeah.
But a lay landlord who doesn't know much about lease will give you someone's drafted tenant. And because we also don't technically know much about lease, we don't look at it. But there is always a space for you to redraft lease. That space is there. When a landlord gives you a lease, you can relook at it and say, no, you are not comfortable with this. The most important thing is the duration, the net lease component in it, whether apart from paying the rent, you're going to take care of the maintenance yourself, you're going to pay property taxes, you're going to pay insurance of the. So that is the most important thing. Of course, obviously, security deposit is something you pay. Whether it is triple net or double or single net, you need to secure, the landlord needs to secure this property. So for instance, after 2 years, you are no more there. And probably you are owing some utility you haven't paid. You've broken some.
Yeah, so that could be actually used to pay that.
So, which is refundable at the end of the day if you haven't engaged yourself in those things. But the location, the amount you're going to pay and the type of net lease you're going to sign is very important. Apart from that, the rest are between you and the landlord, the extra responsibility. So if it is not a triple net, it means that the landlord is responsible for the maintenance of the house, paying his property tax, and the insurance of the property.
All right. Okay, I think let's take a quick breather, and then we'll be back, okay? We'll take a quick break. All right. All right, welcome to Before You Say, and today we're talking about the ABCs of rent in Ghana. And this conversation is actually very interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm even getting to learn a lot. But now, I need to understand, what if you're young, I want to buy a home, or I want to rent a home. Which one is best?
Of course, buying a home is the best. Only if you are living in a country that has the best housing policy that can support you. Yeah, because
so, what are housing policies?
Housing policy are legal framework that creates an enabling environment for people to be able to own their house. We're talking about affordability in terms of housing, right? So for instance, in Ghana, we have, let me just categorize. If you want to buy a house and you don't have the money, of course, you don't have the money to pay upfront, so you need a mortgage option. In the mortgage option, currently it's around 27% for 10-year period mortgage. Beyond 10 years, you pay 28% per annum, right? And the one that has government support, right, is around 18%. So it tells you that when there's a strong legal framework that supports, households to own their own houses, the rent, the cost of buying a house reduces, right? So you got to deal with 18%, which is government-supported mortgage, up to 28, which is the non-government support mortgage, right? So if you have the purchasing power, as I always say, right, you go in for it. I don't think currently the cheapest apartment, let me say 3-bedroom, right, because you can't buy a single room house unless probably you are using it for renting business, right? You want to make revenue from renting it out, right? But to buy a house, you are looking at space. So a minimum 3-bedroom, right? But currently in the market, if you want a proper, decent 3-bedroom to invest your money into, you are not spending anything below 600,000 Ghana cedi. Now, 600,000, and you are picking a 10-year lease mortgage period at 27%. When you do all the calculations, you get back to a monthly repayment of around 14,500. Now, the purchasing power of this household or this couple, would it be enough to be able to pay this 14,500 every month? That is a question they need to ask themselves. You are doing that for 10 good years, and you will not qualify if your bank statement or credit score doesn't prove that you have, the two of you joined together, receive a net income of maybe more than 15,000, let me say 20,000. If you receive 20,000 jointly, it means both of you can qualify for a mortgage around 600,000 value of an apartment.
Right.
Because when you take the 14,500 out of it, you are left with maybe 5,000 Ghana cedi, which is manageable. But the question now comes back to middle income household, low income household, high end. If you find yourself within the low income and middle income, you're going to struggle to pick the mortgage option. So there's always a better option, which most Ghanaians are doing it.
Right.
Right. So yes, it's good to go in for mortgage if you can afford, because I mean there are few people who earn more than 10,000 a month.
Right.
So having a joint amount with your partner, you'll be able to buy a house. But the pain in paying this for almost 10 years, that's a lot. The scenario I just gave, by the time you get to almost 5 years, you've almost given a total interest of 1 million, almost, right? So the best thing, if you don't want to go that direction, is to invest in land.
Right.
Yeah, so land appreciation value is very high, right? So for instance, you can buy 2 plots of land, right, with a target of building on 1 plot, right? So start with what you have and give yourself some time to finish. At a point, you can sell the second one, right? So for instance, if you buy maybe 25,000, the second plot was 25,000. In a year, it should double up to 50,000, the value of that land. So you can sell your land, your second plot of land, in 2 years or 3 years and make a lot of money and invest in completing your building. That's an option low and middle income people should all be looking at. But for the mortgage option, it's for the high income earners.
Right, right. Now, since we're talking about rent in Ghana in general, and probably this is a young couple and they're not earning much, would you advise them to stay in Accra?
Yeah, that's the question you ask is based on so many conditions. Maybe he has a job.
Yeah, so where is rent cheaper?
Rent is cheaper.
We're looking at Ghana.
Yes, so rent is cheaper when accessible to road is poor. When there's no much network of road, pipe, water and electricity. So outskirts Accra, you're going to get cheaper rents to actually do. But if you are working in Accra and you have to stay at Dodowa, right, just look at the distance and the stress, right? Of course, now people live in a brief stretch to come to Accra because the road network is good now, right? And they can afford to be buying fuel into their car. That's fine. So, I mean, I think location has been the #1 thing when you talk about real estate, whether you are buying or you are renting, right? So advice is that go a little bit out of town if it is favorable for you. Right. Other than that, within town, you have to spend a lot on rent. Right.
Is it the same thing in other cities?
Cities in Accra, in Ghana. Kumasi, Takoradi, Accra are getting closer. Kumasi used to be a bit cheaper, but now they are also close to Accra in terms of how expensive rent is becoming.
Right.
So that's it. Anytime there's a new construction of road, there's a hospital, there's a school, the value of the place changes. Right. So today you are paying 700 around Dodo or somewhere or Yarifa. Next year, if those things, amenities come to play, the rent will change.
Right.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about rent and marriage. How does rent affect marriage?
Yes, I mean, housing is what I say is an equity that is one of the critical decisions couples always have to look at. It's one of the key basic needs, right? Without a place to sleep, nothing, you can't do anything, right? So the decision, it has always been the financial, right? Are we going to split our money in terms of paying the rent, or is the responsibility of the guy, or the responsibility of the woman, however it is? That has been one of the major issue, or let me say, conflict in young marriage that we have observed at our workplace. We have people who have actually divorced because of that, right? And it shows when they are renting and you're asking them a lot of questions in order to assess them and approve their smart rent request, right? So young people of today have so much ego. And I believe the principle of splitting whatever you guys want to do, treat marriage as a business, which is not supposed to be so, all right? Once there's a spirit of unism, I believe your money is his money. So that's why when we are determining your purchasing power at our office, we look at, if you are married, we look at how much income both of you earn, because that is what we can rely on to be able to support you when we want to sponsor your rent or something like that.
Right.
So once you see it as a unit and not, I'm giving 50% of my money, you are giving 50% of your money, you're going to journey far in making decision in renting and in owning a house. It's very important.
Right.
But let's switch to people who do 50-50 splits. Right. So for instance, we start doing 50-50 splits, and then the husband is no more working.
Or one person is no more working, yeah.
Yes, what happened? Now the conversation have to change.
Yeah. So what you're saying is it have to be a spirit of unison.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to be one.
Yes.
For everything to work out perfectly. Because when you treat it as, okay, you bring and I bring, there becomes a problem.
You create a lot of conflict. It should rather be, we are spending 20% of whatever we earn in the month on renting.
On renting.
It's not about I'm going to contribute my 50%.
And you to contribute yours. Yeah, because so someone's 20% might be another person's. Yeah.
So we earn 10,000 together.
Yeah.
Some earn 7,000, the other earn 3,000. Together is your money, right? 10,000. So we won't spend more than 20% on rent.
Okay.
That is the agreement.
Okay.
So 20% of 10,000 is around, I don't know, 2,000, right? So meaning you won't go in for an apartment that will cost you more than 2,000 a month. That's an agreement, right? But if you begin to now split cost sharing, it creates a lot of problem. It doesn't actually describe you as married, which means you are one and everything we do is one. You treat yourself as business partners, and you know how business can get complicated with partners who own the business. So yes, it actually leads to a lot of divorces and problems.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, I never thought that, but this is actually very eye-opening, especially coming from someone that deals with properties, you understand? But yeah, if you had to give one advice to someone at the brink of getting married right now, what will it be? From your own perspective, as someone that deals with properties, what would it be?
Yes, their main aim is to have a decision or have a goal that they will own a property within a certain period of time. Because investing in real estate is the only way you can get wealthy. Okay. There's no other way you can create wealth without investing money into real estate. Right. It has been proven in the financial sector, most of them divert most of their money into real estate. Right. The reason is that the value of real estate do not depreciate.
Right.
It always appreciating, unlike money.
Okay.
Money tomorrow is not the same money today.
Right.
So if you have 1 million and put it in the bank, and I put mine in land or house, the value of my 1 million in 3 years to come will be far higher than yours.
Right.
So the decision to own a house is key, but you always have to start from 1 to, so there's a home ownership ladder that you have to start with renting plan.
Right.
So it's very key.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been a very
Sure.
interesting conversation.
Sure.
And I didn't even know you were going to open some boxes, but you did. And yeah, I'm glad that we had this discussion. So we've been speaking about the ABCs of rent here in Ghana, and we've been speaking to Mr. Justice Ofe, the MD of Sikadine Homes. How can people reach out to you?
You get to our website, www.sikadinehome.org, right?
Okay.
Or you call us 050-388-770.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Before You Say I Do. My name is Chris Carter, and see you on the next episode.